This video is sponsored by Shopify. This is a hedgehog picnic, but this is no hedgehog. Meet Autumn the fox. She'll eat anything. Hedgehog food, shoes, literal rubbish. She even tried to eat the picnic basket. So instead, I thought I'd feed her something a bit more nutritious, fox food. I set up a bowl and night vision camera, and she quickly found her way to it. Isn't that just the most adorable sound you've ever heard? It must have been an improvement because she finished the entire bowl. And so it gave me an idea. What if I opened a fine dining restaurant exclusively for foxes and gave Autumn the greatest meal of her life? Plus, what if I opened several more restaurants for all the other wildlife in my garden, including squirrels, birds, and maybe even badgers? If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and see if you can find the bronze, silver, and golden foxes hidden somewhere in the background. Now, the fox wasn't the only one eating the hedgehog food, so I thought I'd start by building a cafe for birds. I built a wooden backdrop and added floorboards, wallpaper, and a tiny window. Next, I furnished the room with doll's house furniture, decorated with all manner of miniature delights. It made me incredibly hungry. Add some mealworms and birdseed to the table, and the early bird bakery was open for business. I tweeted about it, and before long we had flocks of hungry customers. There was a blue tit, a coal tit, a robin, another blue tit, a great tit, and then just a full-on feathery feeding frenzy. But there was one bird in particular that really caught my attention. See this flash of feathers? Well, if we pause it, I'm almost certain that's a woodpecker. It's meant to look something like that painting on the wall. The trouble is, it's very unlikely a woodpecker would land on a flat table like this, much preferring trees or vertical bird feeders. So I moved the camera back and added a coconut and conventional feeder. To begin with, we had the same birds as before, and it was just as much of a frenzy. But then arrived this, a nuthatch, an elegant looking bird with a striped head. And then... the woodpecker. Isn't she glorious? The nuthatch returned only to be scared off once more, before the woodpecker began demonstrating exactly why it's called that, persistently pecking the peanuts for a good few minutes, whilst the nuthatch was relegated to the fence. The early bird bakery was a hit, but the fox and birds still weren't the only ones who'd been eating the hedgehog food, so I decided to build the squirrels something of their own, a squirrel-sized market. I call it May Contain Nuts, and it in fact contains almonds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, monkey nuts, hazelnuts, pecans, sunflower seeds, peanuts, Brazil nuts, cashew nuts, mixed dried fruit, and some giant gourds. Well, giant to squirrels anyway. And our first customer was... a bird? You're not supposed to be here. And even after a few hours, no squirrels showed up at all, so I decided to do some marketing and put up tiny flyers all around my garden. It must have done the trick, because soon a curious squirrel was poking his head around. It was all very adorable for a couple of minutes, but then the destruction began. It was obliterated, but we had two very satisfied customers. It went so well in fact that I thought I'd open a second squirrel business, this time selling my own products. There's tiny squirrel-sized colouring books, art prints, sticker packs, bookmarks, and loads more. However, the squirrels were far more interested in the nuts, completely ignoring my merch. But thanks to this video's sponsor Shopify, I'm able to sell human-sized products online to humans who actually are interested in them. Shopify is a commerce platform that I've personally been using for 2 years to run my store. It's enabled me to really bring my business to life, and it's perfect. It's simple to use and completely takes the stress and mystery out of the process. I'm not the most technical or business savvy person in the world, but it has all the tools you need regardless of technical ability. Even a squirrel could set up their own store, probably. It's honestly incredible being able to take an idea that inhabits my brain, such as making my own colouring book, and then actually being able to turn that idea into a reality and have my products accessible to people all around the world. So if you want to set up your own business like I did, go to shopify.co.uk/halfasleepchris to get started. I mean, I've opened a bakery for birds, a market for squirrels, a merch store for humans, and I'm about to open a fine dining restaurant for foxes. So starting your own business isn't such a crazy distant idea, especially with the help of Shopify. Anyway, allow me to introduce you to one of the most extra things I've ever built. This is the Fancy Fox, the most high-end fox-friendly fine dining destination in my entire garden. We're awaiting Michelin star recognition, but let me familiarise you with our exclusive menu. The first course is the same old fox food pellets I've already been feeding her, albeit garnished with a sprig of parsley. It's a known favourite and a sort of control if you like. The second, however, features a whole roasted chicken, simple, timeless and elegant. Also a Fox favourite if Roald Dahl is to be believed. And the third and final course, dessert, sees gourmet dog treats lovingly arranged into a fox. Yum! It's a dinner certain to titillate the taste buds of even the fussiest foxes, and will undoubtedly go down as the greatest night of autumn's life.
So I've gone completely overboard with the cameras. They're everywhere, all staring at the food. I've even got one mounted up here, giving us a nice top-down view. Plus, I have a couple of cameras looking down the garden in case she runs away with the chicken. If a fox as much as farts in this garden, I'm gonna know about it.
All that was left to do was wait. It rained pretty horrendously for most of the evening, and I wasn't optimistic about our chances. But that didn't stop Autumn the fox. She was clearly a little skittish, but was reassured by her familiar favourite, fox food. However, there was more on the menu than just plain old pellets, specifically treats. I guess she's never been to a fancy restaurant before, and doesn't know that you're not supposed to start with dessert. Still, she obviously enjoyed it, even if she remained a little jumpy. But then her sights moved on to something bigger. Roast chicken. I think she expected it to fight back, flinching with almost every bite, before she finally managed to drag it off the table. And then just as quickly as she'd appeared, she was gone. None of the other cameras picked up what happened, and the chicken wasn't anywhere to be seen the next morning, but I like to imagine she and the other animals had a gigantic feast, just like at the end of Fantastic Mr. Fox. However, an hour and a half later, the cameras were triggered again, this time by a scrawny and very wet fox. I'm fairly sure this is a different fox. I mean, it certainly doesn't look like it's just eaten a whole roast chicken, and was very glad to have found some shelter and a nice meal. As a quick side note, a week or so later, I actually discovered there are at least 3 foxes that frequent my garden. Anyway, this fox stayed for about 15 minutes, polishing off almost all of the fox food. I kinda feel bad that it didn't get any chicken or dessert, but it appeared to very much enjoy the ambiance of the restaurant at least, even if the meal itself wasn't the fanciest. So there we have it, from eating stolen food literally crawling with slugs, to feasting on roast chicken at a luxury restaurant. And the next morning I woke up to a glowing review. But the garden still had one last secret to reveal to us. A couple of nights later, one of my home security cameras caught this, a badger, the most elusive nighttime creature of them all. I've never seen a badger in my entire life. They're incredibly secretive and rare, and it somehow managed to evade the other 8 cameras, which only added to the mystique. Regardless, I feel incredibly lucky to have such wonderful wildlife in my garden, and I strongly encourage you to get out in yours. Set up some bird feeders, put out some nuts for the squirrels, or maybe even leave out a bowl of fox or hedgehog food. It's a whole other world out there at night, with creatures that only emerge during the witching hour and almost never come into contact with humans. But finding that empty bowl in the morning is possibly one of the best feelings in the world, even if once again it wasn't a hedgehog, but a very hungry fox. Remember to go to shopify.co.uk/halfasleepchris to start your own business now.